Hey everyone, how's it going? Azrin here, owner of the Calgary Language Nerds, and welcome to today's Learn Gujarati with Me podcast episode and, of course, YouTube video. Today's lesson is a continuation of yesterday's lesson. Yesterday, we went through a short text in the present tense meant for beginner Gujarati learners, and we broke it down together. At the end of the last lesson, I gave you a piece of homework, which was, a few different things, but one of the pieces of homework was to take that text and put it into the past tense. So today I'm going to read you the exact same text, but today we're going to go through it in the past tense. And yeah, that's that. If you haven't watched the previous lesson, please watch that first and then move on to this lesson here. In fact, if this is your first time coming across any of my videos, probably the best way to work through these videos is to go literally in order, start at number one, and work your way up. Okay, so I'll share my screen and let's begin. I'll start off by reading the present tense version of the text. We're not going to break it down. I'm not going to explain it line by line because I already did this in the previous lesson. Here we go. Oh, last thing. For those of you who can read the Gujarati script, you're going to see that I'm going to use spoken language. So sometimes it'll say things like tenu or te, for example. I'm going to be saying e or enu. I'm going to use e as opposed to te because that tends to be more spoken language. All right, let's begin. Ek manas che. Eનું નામ રવિ છે. રવિ એક નાના શહેરમાં રહે છે. એ રોજ વહેલા ઉઠે છે. Sorry, I just had a brain fart. એ પોતાના દાંત સાફ કરે છે અને ચહેરો ધોવે છે. પછી રવિ કામ પર જાય છે. એ બસમાં જાય છે. રસ્તામાં એ લોકો જુએ છે અને અવાજો સાંભળે છે. કામ પર એ ઓફિસમાં બેસે છે. એ કમ્પ્યુટર પર કામ કરે છે. એ લખે છે અને વાંચે છે. સાંજે રવિ ઘરે જાય છે. એ થાકેલો છે. એ પોતાના પરિવાર સાથે વાત કરે છે. એ થોડું આરામ કરે છે. રાત્રે રવિ જમે છે. પછી એ ટીવી જોવે છે અથવા પુસ્તક વાંચે છે. એ ખુશ છે. પછી એ સૂઈ જાય છે. All right, let's go through the same text in the past tense, and let's go line by line here. Here we go. વાંચે છે. સાંજે ઘરે જાય છે. થાકેલો છે. Sorry, got to go ahead a little bit. Okay, here we go. એક માણસ હતો. એનું નામ રવિ હતું. રવિ એક નાના શહેરમાં રહેતો હતો. એ રોજ વહેલો ઉઠતો હતો. એ પોતાના દાંત સાફ કરતો હતો અને ચહેરો ધોતો હતો. પછી રવિ કામ પર જતો હતો. એ બસમાં જતો હતો. રસ્તામાં એ લોકો જોતો હતો ને અવાજો સાંભળતો હતો. કામ પર એ ઓફિસમાં બેસતો હતો. એ કમ્પ્યુટર પર કામ કરતો હતો. એ લખતો હતો ને વાંચતો હતો. સાંજે રવિ ઘરે જતો હતો. એ થાકેલો હતો. એ પોતાના પરિવાર સાથે વાત કરતો હતો. એ થોડું આરામ કરતો હતો. રાત્રે રવિ જમતો હતો. પછી એ ટીવી જોતો હતો અથવા પુસ્તક વાંચતો હતો. All right, let's go back and break this down together. There's a couple of interesting things here. Here we go. All right, let's begin. First line, ek manas hato. There was a man. Very easy sentence. Yeah, very easy sentence. Ek manas hato. Enu naam Ravi hatu. His name was Ravi. So you'll notice again, if you watch the previous lesson, we had a lot of like che and with a lot of ches in the first lesson. We're gonna see a lot of hatu, hato, hata, and hati, right? Che is kind of like is. These are all kind of like was or were, right? So these are all kind of like the past tense, and this is all the past tense story. So his name was Ravi. Enu naam Ravi hatu. રવિ એક નાના શહેરમાં રહેતો હતો. So Ravi lived in a small town. Now, what I want to point out about this entire text here is the entirety of the text that I'm reading to you. Um, the entirety of this text is in the imperfect past tense. So the imperfect past tense, as a recap, it's for things that it's like was doing. You can call it ongoing actions, if you will. Right. Let's actually write this down here. Let's just open up a new tab. Actually, let me just switch tabs and open up a whiteboard, just a little bit cleaner. Here we go. So as a reminder, the imperfect past tense, we use it for a couple of things. We use it for ongoing actions. This will usually present itself as was plus verb ing. We use it for repeated actions. We have things like every day, every week, right? Maybe every month. We have like these every types of words, every something, and that triggers that this imperfect past tense. We have things you used to do, right? So I used to walk, but now I don't. I used to eat meat, but now I don't. I used to do this, right? We also use it for descriptions. The sun was shining, the wind was blowing, it was raining, right? A lot of these were descriptions. Often, as you even heard, like the descriptions could be ongoing actions. Like the sun was shining, for example. That's an ongoing action per se. Descriptions could also not be ongoing actions. For example, he wore a blue coat. His boots were black. He walked with purpose. Like these are all descriptions of a person in the past tense, and those would all kind of be imperfect. This imperfect past tense. Um, and yeah, so ongoing actions, repeated actions, something you used to do, or descriptions in the past. These are kind of the four situations where we use the imperfect past tense. So the entirety of this text here is all in the imperfect past tense. So there's kind of like, it's almost implied. It's implied that all of these things that I'm going to read you today, that they were all like ongoing. They were all repeated. They're all things he used to do, right? This is like his life in the past, but it's not his life now. Maybe he has a new job now, right? There's kind of that context, which is never explicitly stated, but that is a part of the context. Okay? So back over here. So Ravi Nana Sharma Retoto. So he lived in a small town before, but not anymore. He used to live there before, but not now. Again, a lot of the vocabulary I'm not going to cover because we actually covered it literally in the previous lesson. This is the exact same text as the previous lesson, so we don't need to go through the vocabulary. Okay. E roj velo uttoto. So he woke up early every day, right? So roj, I told you that repeated actions, for example, right? We often have a trigger word like every day, every week, every month. So in this exact sentence, we have roj, which means every day. That triggers that imperfect past tense. E roj velo uttoto. As a reminder here, especially for those who can read the text, right? We're always going to have these hatos, utto, hato, karto, hato. But when we talk, we frequently don't pronounce that ha. So uttoto is what it sounds like, right? So eroj velo uttoto. In the first text, in the previous lesson, I'm 99% sure that it said vela. It said vela. It was written in the respectful form. This entire text is not written in the respectful form. It's written just in like a standard masculine form, which we'll talk about in a moment, actually. We're going to come back to that. એ પોતાના દાંત સાફ કરતો હતો અને ચહેરો ધોતો હતો. So he brushed his teeth and washed his face. And again, there's the implication that this is happening on a repeated basis. This is like a routine he used to have, right? Not anymore, but he used to have this routine. પછી રવિ કામ પર જતો હતો. Then he would go to work. I know it says went to work, but it's almost like he would go to work. He used to go to work. He did this before, but not now. એ બસમાં જતો હતો. So he used to go by bus. રસ્તામાં એ લોકો જોતો હતો અને અવાજો સાંભળતો હતો. So on the way, he watched people and listened to sounds on the road, for example. કામ પર એ ઓફિસમાં બેસતો હતો. So he would sit at work, right? Pretty straightforward. एक कंप्यूटर पर काम करता था. So he would work. Here it says he was working on the computer. I'd say like a better translation is like he would work on the computer or he used to work on the computer, something like that. Maybe now he works in construction, right? This is not his life anymore. E laktoto ane vanchtoto. He would read and he would write, right? Laktoto, he would write. Vanchtoto, he would read. Sanje ravi ghare jato. So he would go home. By the way, for the verb to go, we have two options. I don't even know how I read it to you. I don't really remember, but we can say javu or javu. For both of these can mean to go. So you could say Ravi ghare jato hato or Ravi ghare jato hato. Both are correct. Jato or jato, both are just fine. Here it's written jato, but earlier it actually was written jato. E thakelo hato. He was tired. એ પોતાના પરિવાર સાથે વાત કરતો હતો. He was talking with his family. Again, if there's any words you don't know here, just go back and watch the previous lesson. That's where I really go through in detail what all the words mean. એ થોડું આરામ કરતો હતો. He was resting a little bit. Next one here. Um, Actually, I want to go back a line here. Let's go back over here. So one thing that's worth knowing, or noting rather, I might have said this in the previous lesson. I don't actually remember. But here we have e thoru aram karto to. So aram, and actually a lot of words in Gujarati. So hang on, let me actually stop my screen share. So Gujarati is not a standardized language. So if you learn a language like French or English or Spanish or whatever, like a popular language, quote unquote, a widely learned language, there tend to be really clear versions of what's standard. Like this is standard, this is not standard. That's kind of how that works. And Gujarati is not really a standardized language. I mean, there are standard forms and non-standard forms. Like absolutely that is true. That's 100% true. But it's not very strictly enforced. It's not like, in French, if I go to France and I speak a certain way, like the native speakers very clearly know this is standard, this is not standard. Whoa, that's not standard. Oh, that's like this. If you speak Spanish, instantly people will say, oh, that's from Colombia. Oh, that and Gujarati, to be fair, has a lot of that too. Like, oh, that word's from this region. Oh, you must have learned in that region. Like, of course, Gujarati has that too, of course, but there's just a different flavor to it. So, for example, like one of the ways that you find that, that non-standardization of the Gujarati language, right? One of the ways that you see that is just how many things are acceptable and how many things are correct, based on what is called, I believe the technical term is descriptive grammar. So when you look at from a linguistic perspective, when you look at a language, you have two types of grammar. We have, I believe it's called, this is going back to my like linguistics 101 classes, like when I was 18 years old, but I think it was called prescriptive and descriptive grammar. If I got the terms wrong, it's not actually important. It's the definition that matters more. So prescriptive, if I got that word right, this means that this is the grammar that textbooks say is correct. The textbooks say this is how you should talk. Descriptive grammar means how people actually talk. So you might not, like everyone might break a certain grammar rule. Everyone might break it, or like a lot of people might break it. But because everyone kind of breaks it, it's just sort of acceptable because everyone does it and no one considers it to be wrong. So you have two definitions of what is correct and what is incorrect. Now, in a lot of languages, in a lot of popular quote unquote languages, there will be at least a fair, how do I say this? There's probably going to be a fair, at least in this personal observation, there's a fair amount of overlap between the two. There's a fair amount of overlap between what the textbooks say is correct and what people actually do, right? Roughly speaking, let's say there's a decent overlap. But Gujarati, in fact, is a language where there often that overlap is quite blurry. So it's kind of a long-winded way to say, like when you look at a sentence like, what was it again? It was, E thoru aram karto to. Aram, some people might say thoro aram. Some people might say thoru aram. Like the actual gender of aram, based on my observations of listening to people talk, it actually can change. Like some people make it masculine, some make it feminine. And that's a really common thing among the Gujarati language where there's like often a ton of different ways to say things that are all pretty much correct depending on who you're talking to, region. Like I could tell you so many stories like that, so many stories like that. Oh my God. Like I remember when I was in Gujarat, I'll tell you one. I'd be texting people and like I would see people spell things in so many different ways. Like the same, imagine if you like texted 20 people like in English, right? And imagine if one person spelled phone PHONE, the next person spells phone FON, the next person spells phone FOONE, and fourth person spells phone, I don't know, PF PFOEN, but I don't know, like everyone has, like I would get that a lot, like people would text me and I was like, man, people like spell wildly differently. I was like, this is why it's so strange. It was so funny to see that. It's like, whoa, this is quite interesting. So anyway, kind of a long-winded way to say that this sentence here, e toru aram karto to, could be toro aram, toru aram. I think both, at least based on my observations. I think I'm 99% sure that I've heard both, depending on the person. So anyway, ratre ravi jamto to. So then he ate dinner at night. He would eat dinner regularly at night. Pachi e TV joto to atva pustak vanchto to. So then he would either watch TV or he would read a book. And again, these English translations underneath, these aren't perfect translations, but maybe listen to my oral translations more than these written ones, frankly. But e kushoto, he was happy. Pachi e sui jato to. Then he would go to sleep. Perfect. I like that. Okay. So yeah, that's that. Now I'm going to give you a couple of ways to practice with this text or with this audio at home. Let's just kind of rewind here. I'm going to give you two different activities. One of them is take the exact same text that we just had, right? Take the exact same one, and I want you to translate it from English to Gujarati. Okay, so that we've already done before. We do that regularly. So go through this. There was a man. Let's just do it really quickly. His name was Ravi. He lived in a small town. He woke up early every day. He would brush his teeth and wash his face. He'd go to work. He went by bus. I know I'm going fast. Feel free to pause as needed, of course. On the road, he watched people and listened to the different sounds. He was sitting in the office at work. He was working on the computer. He would write. He would read and write. In the evening, Ravi would go home. He was tired. He would talk with his family. He would rest a little. At night, Ravi would eat dinner. Then he'd watch TV or read a book. He was happy. Then he'd go to sleep. Okay, so that's number one. Like just translate from Gujarati, from English back into Gujarati. Like start with that. And the next thing I'll have you do is take this exact same text and I want you to play with it. So make it in the feminine and make it in the respectful form. So for example, instead of a manas, let's make it a woman, for example, like stri, for example, right? Well, now we're not gonna have hati. It's not gonna be hatto, it'll be hati, right? Ekstri hati, right? Enu nam ravi hatu. That's ravi for a woman's kind of weird, but that's gonna be the same, right? E nana sherva retiti, reti hati, right? Eroj veli uttiti, right? It's going to be all these t's, right? So try that. And then also play with it and put it in the formal, right? So eroj vela uttata. E potana dan saf kartata. Ne chero dhotata. Like put it into the plural and try that as well. Sorry, into the respectful form and try that as well. So a couple of different practice activities. And if you ever want an answer key, you're like, oh, I don't know if I got this right, literally just ask ChatGPT. And it's decently accurate at giving you translations. Also, the vast majority of you know someone who's Gujarati. That's usually the case for Gujarati learners. You could literally just ask someone like, hey, is this right? I kind of wrote this out. I'm doing some Gujarati homework. Is this like correct? Can you help correct these, please? And they'll also be able to help you. Okay. So that's that. Thank you for watching today's lesson. And yeah, see you next time. Aujo. Bye.